YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me for another one of my videos. So interestingly, I've spoken about money before, but not necessarily in this much depth. I've obviously mentioned it in my book, Spiritual Queen, but money has always been something I think I've overlooked, not necessarily in my own life, but in, sharing advice with you guys or creating content. And it was only when I was doing a podcast interview with my friend Jordan a couple of months ago, and he said, Emma, literally, you need to be talking about money. He was like, it's so rare to find someone young and spiritual who is financially abundant in the way that you are. And he said, like, you really need to talk about money more and the relationship with money, because a lot of people struggle with it and it comes so easily to you. And he was like, from reading your book and stuff, like, literally, you need to be teaching this. And I was like, God, I really do, don't I? And then, like, I said to Hannah, and she was like, Emma, I've been telling you this for ages, like, you're so good with money. And like, a lot of people, like, especially in the spiritual sphere, like, don't feel financially abundant, or they associate it as the root of all evil. And I think that's just something that really has to change, because we can be spiritual and be financially abundant. Like, that is what the universe wants. And it is creating that healthy mindset and that healthy relationship with money that can change everything. So a lot of my clients come to me and they say, like, I really, really want a better relationship with money, and it can either stem down from childhood stuff that has happened, whether maybe their parents have always taught them that there was never enough, or that they weren't worthy of it. There are so many things that can result from our childhood situation, but it can definitely be changed. We can definitely, there are so many examples of people in the world who have gone from nothing to, rich beyond their wildest dreams. So it definitely can shift and can change. And I think almost sometimes the people who have lived without nothing have the biggest hunger, they have the biggest passion and drive to be successful or to create a financially free life for their family, for their loved ones, etc. So I always find that the people who have maybe not had such a great upbringing strive for it the most, which is good, but it also brings those blocks and those, limiting beliefs that we have to overcome. So my financial history is quite interesting because I've always worked with money. And it's funny because Emma, the psychic who was at my book launch, told me that my next book's going to be on money. And it's funny because I have an idea. It's not necessarily just specifically money. It's more of a broader range of topic. But she was like, you need to stop like getting rid of your money roots. Like, your money roots were there for a reason. So I've always been really good with money. My dad used to run his own business, so I was always brought up around, inspirational, like, CEOs of their own business, and and money, I guess, as well. Like, not in a ridiculous sense, like, my parents definitely taught me the value of money. Absolutely. I never just had anything gifted to me or anything just given. I really had to work for what I had, and I'm actually really grateful they did do that. At the time, I fucking hated them for it. Obviously, I was like, it's not fair, all my friends have these things and I don't. But it taught me the value of money. It taught me that if I wanted those things in life, that I had to go out and get it. So from a very young age, about 14, I was working all weekend. I had a really well paid job at 14. I'm not gonna lie, like, it's probably more than I earned when I was about 21. I worked as a waitress. I had like a waitressing job, and I was earning £10 an hour. I was high on top of the world at 14, like, working all my weekends. I was like mega rich. No idea what I spent that money on, obviously, like clothes maybe, no idea. And then when I left sixth form, I knew that I absolutely wanted to go and start my own business. Did not want to go to university, absolutely not. So I worked in Starbucks, then worked in a phone company, and then I went to a bank and worked in a bank. So money has always kind of been at the center of my work, I think. It's at the centre of most things, isn't it? But I think from definitely working in the bank, it taught me a lot about money, and the bank taught me exactly the unhealthy side of money. I'm really grateful I did work in a bank, because it taught me all the things which we should not do with money. It taught me all the things and all the like societal ways that money is shown as greed, all the like negative connotations to money, and how the banks are bastards, literally. Like, I've had quite a few run-ins with this bank over the last few years, and yeah, I would never work for them again, and I would certainly never bank with them again. And it just opened my eyes up to so much. And like looking back, I know that that experience had to happen all to teach me how to be financially abundant, how to be financially free, and to flip this, to not see money as evil, but realize that banks do have agendas, like massively they have agendas. You know, like from working in a bank for 2 years, it was horrid. Like I had targets, which I was used to in all of my jobs. And, you know, I was really good at hitting my targets because I didn't care. I went in, and if the person wanted it, great. If they didn't, not for them. Like I would never force a product on someone. I would never force anything on anybody because it just wasn't how I was as a person. And I just thought, like, this 82-year-old does not need a £10,000 loan. And my manager would sit in there and say, like, Emma, you need to ask her. I'm like, she doesn't need a loan. She's 82. Like, that is just irresponsible lending at its finest. Like, she's probably gonna, you know, God rest her soul, pass before she even pays back that loan. So it just never made sense to me, like the whole targets, and like, you know, like there definitely was a thing of like approach the vulnerable people, and I was like, no, absolutely not. Like they're the people who need actual like better money help, rather than just giving them a loan and like, you know, in like subscribing them to more debt. So I struggled with that job because although like naturally the right people did come to me, so it's not like I wasn't hitting my targets, you know, the right people always came to me, but equally I just could see so many like bad relationships with money. I could see the desperation, I could see the negativity associated around loans, mortgages, all of it. So it really opened my eyes up to, I was not built for that job at all. So around that time I was in my first relationship, and that's when I took on the loan through that bank, through my work, to pay off his debts, to help him out. And then that's when I got lumbered with the debts. When we broke up, he didn't pay it back, he didn't pay a single penny, and still to this day I paid it all off. And obviously then, like, that was the first real time at 21 that I had debt on my shoulders. I had helped someone out and had like done really well at my job, and there I was, depressed, anxious, couldn't leave the house, lost my job because I just couldn't, like, I didn't want to be there anymore, so I quit. I was just like, I cannot do this. And obviously I had £7,000 debt around my neck, and I was like, great. So at 21, I would say my relationship with money, it was good, but obviously I had to like really mature and really like get sensible about it to clear that debt, because I then went and worked part-time at a retail shop. So obviously I was not earning what I used to be earning at the bank, and I think things just became simpler for me. Like I really had to reevaluate my relationship with money. I really had to reevaluate my life situation. And then I got into my second relationship, and then obviously like we moved in after a couple of years, and I think, you know, money was tight kind of over that period, like over our relationship span, but it taught me like to really work for my money. It taught me that the simple things in life didn't cost money, and it taught me that you know, that I could clear that debt. So all over that time I then started my extreme couponing business, and I never ever thought it would even earn a single penny. I didn't know how a couponing business would earn money, but I obviously became self-employed, started earning money, and I think because I had no expectations, that's again what really helped me to grow quickly in that business, because I worked hard, and I was passionate about what I did. So that business for me was like really abundant, and that was the first time in my life where I had my own money, like, you know, proper own money. I was able to move out, I was able to go on holidays, I was able to do, you know, everything that I'd wanted to do in my life but for myself, and enjoy it without having to worry, without having to, you know, I felt comfortable. I felt really comfortable when I had that business, and I'm really grateful for all the financial stability it gave me, for all the things I was able to do, like buy all my cameras, you know, buy my computers, all of the things, the holidays I went on, like, you know, that business did so much for me, not only in myself and my career, but financially as well. So I rented my property throughout that period. Like I haven't owned a house yet, there's a reason for that. Exes and credit files, but you know, and also it just hasn't been the right time. Like also, you know, like I want to make sure when I buy a house that it's at the right time. So I'm happy renting, like, you know, in this house as well, I'm happy doing that. So After that relationship broke down, obviously he left me in a bit of debt as well, haha. And again, like, my mindset had completely shifted after that. So I still had some of the debt from my first relationship at that point. This was in 2016. So I still had some of the debt left. I was just paying it off gradually. But what's actually really funny is that I was avoiding a lot of it. I did have the money in my bank account. Like, I literally could have wiped it off like that, but I always came up with an excuse. And I know for myself that was because I didn't want to pay off that debt. It wasn't actually my debt. And I think in my head, I was like, I've worked hard for this money. Like, why would I want to pay that off? But then, you know, once I really started working on the law of attraction and spirituality, I realized that I really had to like own that situation and be like, I am abundant. Like, I am abundant, and the universe has brought me so much incredibleness from that shitty situation that, you know, I needed to realize I was abundant and that that money would then again come to me. So in that moment, I said, I want to manifest being debt-free. This was when I was manifesting, and I was like, I want to manifest being debt-free. And within 5 days, the exact amount came to me. And this was life-changing money for me. You know, I'd obviously earned it over years, but in like in 5 days, it's quite a lot of money to get. And it was £10,000. And so I cleared the debt from both exes. But still, when I got that money, I was still like holding on to it. And I was like, what are you doing? Pay it off. So in my head, I was like, Emma, you've manifested that money. Like, you asked for that money. That is for your debt. Like, don't be selfish. So I really like sucked it up and paid it all off. And for the first time in my life, I felt free afterwards. I felt so free, and I was like, you know, the universe is incredible. Like, you know, both situations were put on me like against my will, and I was screwed over basically. So they weren't my fault. It wasn't my debt, essentially. It wasn't my problem, but I had to really like mature and deal with those situations properly. And like, I couldn't bury my head in the sand. You know, I was living by myself. I had my own financial responsibilities. I had a business to run. Like, I couldn't just run and hide. And I'm so proud of myself for doing that, because, you know, so many of us, males and females, are in those situations where we get lumbered with debt because we trust someone and we think that they would do the right thing and they don't. And for me, like, those experiences were what really created that healthy relationship with money for me, because it taught me that shit happens sometimes, but we are abundant. And by believing that I was abundant and believing that that money would come back to me, it always has. So a big thing that I teach my life coaching clients is when they're making a big purchase or paying off debt or anything that is those like gut-wrenching, horrid moments where you don't want to pay it, but you know you kind of have to, is to, you know, even if it's a big purchase like a computer, if it's necessary, you know, it's saying, you know, thank you, universe, for the money to pay for this, and the money will return to me tenfold. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And so it is. So I always do that before a big purchase, paying off debt or anything where I'm always like, thank you, universe, for the money returning to me tenfold. You know, keep that in your mind and feel abundant. You know, like, our money is there to be spent. At the end of the day, we can't spend it when we're dead. It's good to be sensible, obviously, but equally it's, you know, when you allow yourself to spend, you're saying to the universe, I know that I'm financially abundant. So I want to get onto the knowing your worth and treating yourself like theories, because these are really, really, really difficult ones, because I see, again, in this industry of spirituality, a lot of people who are conning people, and I don't like it particularly. You know, I've even fallen into some of the traps before of these, you know, we'll make you a 6-figure life coach, invest in yourself, invest £10,000 in us and we'll make you a 6-figure life coach. But what they are doing is selling. So okay, that kind of pyramid structure has been sold to them by someone at the top. So let's like get real. Let's look at your Tony Robbins levels. They are selling these pyramid structures down and down and down and down. So what these people are doing is not teaching you to be financially abundant. It's not teaching you actual business skills to create that 6-figure business. They're teaching you their pyramid structure to then go and pass on. So I've done them. Trust me, I've done them. So what I was taught was that to invest in myself at ridiculous amounts of money that didn't even feel good to me, I then was taught a pyramid structure to go and con more people. It ain't for me. And frankly, like, I see it a lot on social media, and it makes me think like, what the fuck? Like, you're selling a lifestyle that is not fucking sustainable. And I like, from discovering this, from this conversation with John and Hannah, I've realized like I need to talk about this more, about sustainability of life, sustainability of business, and sustainability of money. All of these pyramid structures, all of these get rich quick things, all of these coaches that, you know, sell you this false dream is not giving you sustainability. And the one thing that I'm proud of in my life is that I have created sustainability. And a big example of that is within my businesses. And when I sold my couponing business, when it was originally quoted before the Facebook crash, I was quoted life-changing money. So much so I would have been a millionaire by 25. And to me, I was like, wow, amazing, like that would be great. But I wasn't attached to it because I knew that money would never change me. Money throughout my life has never changed me. I'm still the same person. I still respect the same. For me, it means I can help more people. That's all money ever means to me, is that yes, I could have, you know, I could own a house or have a bigger house, but essentially like it's to help people and it's to help others feel financially abundant. And how I created that sustainability is not by charging the high heavens, not by conning people out of money, not by saying to people, know your worth and invest thousands of pounds in me, because the type of client you will get is not what you want. You will get a desperate person who has spent their life savings, but you will never be able to fulfill their expectations. You will never be able to fulfill what they expect for their 10 grand, for their 5 grand, for their 3 grand. And I'm not saying that's a wrong thing. If you watch this and you do that, fantastic. But from experience, the motive behind it, like, you know, as you get bigger, you know, when we're talking like Gabby Bernstein level, Tony Robbins level, yeah, charge what you want. Like, they've been in the industry for 20 years. They know what they're doing. They've got the credibility. They've got the New York Times best-selling books. Credibility is very different of knowing your worth. What I'm saying is when we're starting off, when you're at that starting off period, you can't be charging thousands of pounds, because it's almost like, you know, let's look at it from a different perspective of experience. Let's look at it from a different industry. You know, if you were to see someone who's just starting out charging rates of people who have been doing it for 20 years, you'd be like, well, I'll go and see the people who've been doing it 20 years. It's the experience. So it's not saying you're not worthy of it, not at all, the complete opposite. It's showing that you're sole purpose and your passion is in the right place to be starting that business. So I always say to people, it is so much better to have 20 consistent regular clients who are paying you a smaller fee, should we say, a more manageable, reasonable fee, which feels in alignment with you and feels in alignment with them. So say for instance, you're charging £100 an hour. Like, let's just, you pluck that figure out the air and say £100 an hour. So if you are having 20 regular clients, should we say a month, then that is obviously £2,000 a month. So is it not better to feel in alignment with your figure, feel in alignment with your work, and know that you're giving people great value for their money, and you know, you're actually giving, you know, you feel good about your service, you feel good and abundant, and you're in alignment with that price, then charging £3,000 to tie people in, so I'm talking per session by the way, is it not better to do that than charge people £5,000 for 8 sessions, shall we say, off the top of my head, and you only get one person sign up and then not come back because it feels scary for them? And a lot of people say that the reason why they feel drawn to my sessions is because of the flexibility, because of the accessibility and flexibility. And for me, I looked at what felt good for me. I looked at what price point felt good for me, what felt good for my experience, what felt good to, you know, what felt in alignment to me. So, you know, I'm sure a lot of people would look at my work and say she doesn't know her worth. But I've sold a business at 24. I run another successful business, which is this. I've released a book. I have a merchandise range. It is not that I don't know my worth. It's that I have a healthy, abundant relationship with money, where I feel in alignment with my price points, where I feel in alignment with my work, and in alignment that my work is accessible to people. It is, you know, for me, my work is not for the elite. My work is not for the people who I'm gonna scam out of money and then feel terrible and not be able to sleep at night because I'm not giving them what their, you know, what their money they've paid for, essentially. So it's a real difficult topic, the fine line of money and career. Absolutely, especially being self-employed, like knowing your worth, knowing your price. But I always say, do what is in alignment with you. Don't feel pressured and don't like look what other people are doing. do what feels good for you. And of course, like, raise your prices each year. Like, that's all natural, that all happens. And like, with your experience and stuff, like, by all means do that. But always make sure that you have the sustainability, because that's why my book's always filled with client sessions, because they are getting their money's worth. It's accessible, and it is, you know, giving them what they need to be able to change their relationship with money, so eventually they don't need me. At the end of the day, this is all about creating sustainability with finances in your life. You know, it is really about, you know, creating that healthy relationship and what feels in alignment with you. So purchases is another thing of, you know, I've seen it in the spirituality career of investing in yourself, investing in coaches, investing in all of this stuff. And that's great. If that feels good to you, if that feels in alignment and you feel that's really going to benefit you, then that is a wise investment of your money for sure. But it's got to feel in alignment with you. It can't be a scary, negative purchase, because at the end of the day, if you're parting with a lot of money, you need to feel in a good place when you're spending that. You need to feel abundant, where you know that money's going to come back to you and you trust that person and that you're going to get a good return of investment for your money for sure. So relationships with money, away from career, away from business, like a healthy, abundant relationship with money is simply by seeing it as energy. You know, money is energy, the same as clothes, the same as all the stuff you see in my background. Money is exactly the same. Although it is an exchange between two people, or an exchange between company to company, for example, it is all energy. The universe does not see money as any different to crystals. I'm just like naming things in my background, but like, you know, it doesn't see it any different to anything else we can manifest. And as well, the universe sees money exactly the same. So £1 million and £1 is the same to the universe energetically. So this is what we really have to get our heads around, is not like our human societal brain is like, well, our logical brain, should we say, is like, okay, £1 million is really unachievable. It's like a big amount of money. I remember what I said to you before about saying that your manifestations are big, or, you know, it's a hard work manifestation. The universe is like, okay, sure it is. Whereas if you're like, okay, that £1 million is an easy manifestation, just like manifesting £10, then the universe is like, okay, sure. So really, you know, it's creating that relationship with money where you see yourself as financially abundant, you feel abundant in yourself, and realize that the different values of money energetically are not different. It is us as humans who create those differences in the amounts of money. Therefore, you know, saying it's more unachievable, or it's hard work, or it's a life-changing amount. Do you know what I mean? Like, we put those limits on the money side. So some practices I really love to do to help manifest money is the magic check from The Secret. I will link that down below. I like to fill this out on a new moon, just to manifest money and create more abundance in my life. And another really good tip for when you spend your money is, like I said, setting that intention, expressing that gratitude for the money that has entered your life to be able to make that payment or pay that bill or buy that item, and say to me, you know, thank you universe for this money, and it will return to me tenfold, knowing and trusting that you are worthy of that item. So knowing your worth can, you know, come in multiple forms, but also treating yourself. So a lot of the time, you know, your relationship with money will look, are you treating yourself? Are you realizing you're financially, you know, abundant? Or like me, were you holding on to the money when you didn't need to? You know, it wasn't like I was short of money. I was holding on to that money because morally I didn't want to pay it. I was like, well, it wasn't my debt, so I didn't want to pay it. But I had to get into that mindset of, okay, maybe it wasn't my fault, but it is my responsibility. It is legally my responsibility. And when I paid it off, I showed the universe that I was abundant enough and trusted enough that more money and more abundance came back in to replace that money almost immediately. And another really good example of this was with one of my life coaching clients last year. She wanted to buy a laptop to help her out with her work, get her career started off, but she was just having so many like conflicting thoughts about whether she should do it or not, whether she had the money, but she knew that she kind of had to, essentially. So I taught her these tricks. I said, say this after, you know, say your little affirmation, do your money check, you know, just believe this money is going to come back to you. So anyway, a couple of hours later after our session, she'd bought the laptop, she did it. She was like, yes, this is going to help my work. I know this is like what I'm meant to do. It's going to like help me share my purpose in the world. So she believed in herself and she believed in her worth, that she did deserve that laptop after saving up and her hard work. And her landlord literally called her an hour later and said, yeah, don't worry about paying the rent next month. You know, you've helped me out with some stuff, like, don't worry. So she manifested that money back within hours. And I was like, oh my God, I love when that happens. Like, I love when the universe does that, because it's just such proof that it really, really does work. And I've had exactly the same, even on large amounts. You know, I've paid for holidays and then been like, you know, the money returns to me tenfold. And then a couple of days later, a job will come in for that exact price. And I'm like, oh, thank you, universe. So it's not about going crazy. It's not about splurging. It has to feel good for you. And this is the key message here of these purchases, and this exchange of money has to feel good for you, because if you're doing it out of fear to try and manifest it, it won't happen, because you're putting that fear vibe out, which is then bringing fear back into you. So you really truly have to work on that relationship with money. You have to, you know, work on your worth of spending that money on yourself, or spending that money on treating yourself, or going on holiday, or buying something to help your business. So at the end of the day, it's about realizing that money is our friend. Money is not our enemy. Money is not the root of all evil. It is energy, and we can create a positive relationship with it. And just like with anything, self-love, body confidence, anything, it's creating that harmonious relationship within ourselves, which creates that harmonious relationship in our outer world. So I'm going to be doing loads more videos on this, don't worry, but I thought this was a great place to start the conversation. So let me know what any other like money tips or situations you'd like me to talk about in the comments down below, and I will certainly do that in future videos. But I hope this video has helped you anyway, and thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate all your views and likes. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new here, because I would love to see you again soon. Don't forget to leave me a comment in the comments box down below, because I replied to them all, and I will see you in my next video, which will be next week. And don't forget, you can join my free Law of Attraction support group over on Facebook. The link is down below. Anyway, lots of love guys, and I'll see you next week.